Okay. Is the cursor showing down at the bottom
I see the red recording button.
right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not on that page, so it's recording, but I'm going to apparently have to back out. Let's see. You don't see my the cursor in the digestive system lecture? Just say no if you don't.
No, we see your face.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Well, we don't want to see my face. So, okay, back I go. I got to remember to do that recording early. This will log me in for a second time. Now, please, someone tell me, what are you seeing?
No.
Your face.
Oh, why is it doing that? Okay, let's go here.
We can see your screen now.
Okay. Do you occasionally find something new that you didn't know before on Canvas? They're making a puzzle out of learning with all of this stuff, I'm afraid. I love computers. I love puzzles. But when I want to get something done, I want to get it done. Okay. I'll remember how I just did that. And we'll get back to digestive system. Okay, digestive system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Functions of the digestive system, then first one is mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion is like taking a jawbreaker piece of candy, hard candy, and just crunching it. You break it down in size, but you don't change it chemically. The chemical change will occur, become sugar probably at some point, but mechanical digestion is just to break down to smaller size. When you eat celery, that's a great example of mechanical digestion because you can't otherwise digest celery at all. Okay, you just break down the size. Chemical digestion is when you break down the food that you're ingesting and you change it chemically. That almost always happens, but doesn't have to, but almost always happens with chewing. Sometimes you can just suck on something and change it, however. Chemical digestion would be to change starch to sugar or protein to amino acid. We really have three classes of food, and we haven't accounted for the third one yet. Okay.
Let me just read it for you on your side.
The protein and carbohydrate is starch. Okay, there are two classes of food. The third class is lipid or fat. And fat is emulsified. Fat is not really digested, it's emulsified. Emulsification means to make it smaller and smaller droplet wise. Okay. Did you ever do dishes in a stopped up a stopped sink. You stopped it. You did dishes at night, and you don't want to see that mess in the morning. So you throw in some soap suds, some detergent, and run the hot water for a moment, and you get billowing white suds, and it looks beautiful. Yeah, now you can go to bed and rest easy. But when you get up in the morning, there it is again. The suds are gone, and the fat, if there was fat in there, it coagulates into a blob in the center of the sink. Okay? Now, if you've never done this, because maybe you've never done dishes, and there are a few people lucky enough, you have to use your imagination. But a blob of fat in the sink floating like a taco, okay? Take a fork, take a fork to it, and just swish it back and forth and break it all up. When you take a large piece of fat globule or lipid and break it all up, that's emulsification. We have chemical help for emulsification of fat in the digestive system, and that help we'll see in a moment comes from the liver. The fourth function listed here is that the digestive system stores food. People often overlook that one. The main function of the stomach isn't digestion, it's storage of food. It does digestion, but storage of food is primarily the primary function. If it weren't for the stomach, we would be looking for food all of the time. Hunter gatherers, we'd be like hummingbirds, having to feed all of the time. You ever see a hummingbird around a feeder? Once they find one of those feeders, boy, they protect that thing. They that's their source of food, and that makes it easier for them. Okay, they don't seem to do anything else though. Go off and do much else uh, when all your life has been spent looking for food. That's really all they know. Okay, so if it weren't for the stomach, human beings probably wouldn't be able to have advanced, if that's the correct word. Pardon my choice. Advanced and formed a civilization. The Parthenon would never have been built. Roads would probably never have been built. Pathways would exist where people would be looking for food. Okay, it's only because we have the ability to go between meals that we have time on our hands to do good or bad. The absorption of nutrients, breaking down food or digesting food is in two parts. One, the breakdown, and two, the absorption of the nutrients. This is primarily done in the small intestine. The stomach does absorb some materials. The stomach absorbs alcohol, for instance, and the stomach absorbs some medications. Of course, that's not natural, but it does absorb some medications. And some medications are formulated so that they will be dissolved and absorbed in the stomach. That bypasses going past the liver. And those medications that go to the liver go through the stomach, and the liver digests them. It changes their abilities or their qualities. Some medication has to bypass the liver to work. Other medications have to go through the liver to work. Okay. And then finally, the compaction of waste. And that always results from the reabsorption of water, which is done by the large intestine or colon. And we'll get to that. The components of the digestive system the components of the digestive system, the GI tract, and accessory organs. The GI tract, gastrointestinal tract, no one ever calls it that. Your book uses the term alimentary canal. Nobody ever calls it that, just your book. Okay, we all call it the GI tract. This consists of any part of the digestive system through which food is transported, okay, from in to out. Even if it is indigestible and you swallow a glass marble, okay, from in to out, it's going to be in the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract, okay. GI tract would include the esophagus, stomach, cecum, the large intestine, okay. And I see I didn't put small intestine in here, but certainly that's a big part of the GI tract. Accessory organs. Accessory organs are necessary in digestion, but food being having been swallowed does not pass through these organs. These include the pancreas, the liver, gallbladder, and the salivary glands. The photo that you see underneath it is just really for reference. We have better ones or additional ones coming up. But most of the photos coming up will show some of these structures. And I don't want you to think all of them are digestive structures. The hard palate certainly is actually a digestive structure. Hard palate, the roof of your mouth. Try eating without that. I've got a cat with a cleft palate. The goddamn cat eats and then he sneezes. It's horrible. Okay, but I like the cat. Okay, here's the hard palate. The soft palate at the back of your mouth, the part that hangs down, you've all seen it. The uvula. This is considered by some to be a part of the digestive system and the respiratory system, because when you swallow, it moves upwards and blocks off the passageway into the nasal cavity. I think it does a pretty poor job myself, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And so there's the uvula. Soft palate is back here. You have two tonsils, or two sets of tonsils. Okay, the pharyngeal tonsil at the top of the pharynx. This is the pharynx labeled here. The pharyngeal tonsil, and right at the back of the mouth, the palatine tonsil. Okay. Tonsils are lymph nodes. They fight infection, and very important to us. A lot of people think of how horrible they are because in cancer, they tend to spread the disease. No, they don't spread the disease. The disease is spread through them, unfortunately. Pharyngeal tonsil, also known as the adenoids. And the palatine tonsil is just normally called tonsil. To distinguish them, though, on a test, I would have to use the correct name. Epiglottis is right here. Now, this is hard to see. I can make it a little bit bigger, I suppose. So right from here to here. The epiglottis is a piece of hyaline cartilage. Okay, cartilage. And the hyaline cartilage here, when you swallow, pivots down. The hinge is right here where the pointer is. And the lid is here and clamps down here. Get off there. So that this is covered. That prevents food from entering into the trachea. The trachea gets covered by the epiglottis. We all know that that's not always the case either. Things don't work perfectly all the time, but we manage. Vocal folds are just exactly what you think they are. The voice box, the vocal folds. This paragraph starts off by tracing the digestion of something that is swallowed. Okay. It says celery can only be digested mechanically, but we've already said that too. Okay. Other material can be acted upon by enzyme. And in the mouth, where mechanical digestion is going on, an enzyme is being mixed with the food. And that's the enzyme that comes from the salivary glands. There are 3 types of salivary glands that you'll see in just a moment. And we refer to their secretion as salivary enzyme or salivary amylase. Amylase. AMA, AMY, refers to starch, and ACE refers to an enzyme breaking something down. Salivary amylase has the ability to break down starch and convert it to sugar, but only a very limited ability in our mouths. When you're eating something that is starchy, what could you eat that's starchy? You could eat potatoes, okay, obviously. How many of you sense that the potato is being converted into sugar? Only those very few of you that keep the potato in your mouth for a long time. Most of us would find that disgusting to even think of. So we swallow the potato. That's nice that way, okay? The salivary amylase can only work in the mouth for a limited length of time. You're eating a cracker, for instance. It's going to be salty, saltine, okay? Chew on it a lot. Before you swallow it, it starts to taste sugary. But as soon as you swallow, the material that is moved to the stomach hits the stomach where the pH, the acidity level, is low, 2 or 3, and that inactivates the amylase. So amylase and the saliva, salivary amylase, can only work in the mouth to start with. Okay. The main function of the saliva is to lubricate the food. That's going to be on the test. There's no question. The main function of the saliva is to lubricate the food. That's going to be on the test. And so, of course, is what's the main function of the stomach? And that is the storage of food. Okay. I like to ask questions that sort of dispel notions that people usually come into the class with. Okay. The pharynx is the portion that we were looking at in the previous example. It's the portion of the GI tract that extends from the exit of the nasal cavity to the larynx. It's this. This is the pharynx, and it consists of 3 parts. The uppermost part is the nasal pharynx, then the oropharynx, and then below that, the laryngopharynx. If you were to open your mouth and look back, you probably have done that when you had tonsillitis, if you are like most people. Do you ever take a flashlight shine it back into the mirror, and so that you can see into your mouth really well at the back. Try it if you haven't. You'll be able to see all this area back here. And all this area at the back to the spine is the oropharynx. Above the oropharynx is the nasopharynx. If some piece of food, quite notably popcorn, gets up here on the soft palate shelf, okay, it's entered into the nasopharynx. You can't see it with the flashlight trick looking in the mirror. It's up too high. But the nasopharynx doesn't become the whole nasal cavity. The nasal cavity is split in half, right and left, and then 3 layers by the nasal conchae that we know, and exit from 2 holes. Here's one, which we call the nasal or internal nares. Internal nares, N-A-R-E-S. That's in the text here someplace. Okay. You ever get to the bottom of a box of popcorn? You're in a movie theater and you're eating the shells because there's nothing else. And one of them gets stuck up here. If it hasn't happened to you, you've probably seen it happen to somebody else. They start coughing away, they can't stop. There's nothing that makes it come down, it seems, except for time. I've had it happen to me. You run away because you're out of the theater because you're making so much noise. And then you begin to think, oh my God, it will never come down. It'll be there for the rest of my life. And it finally gets out of there. Yeah. Nasopharynx, oropharynx. You swallow something and it goes down below the oropharynx. It's in the laryngopharynx. That ends right here at the level of the vocal folds and the top of the trachea. Here's trachea. Here's trachea. The epiglottis comes down and closes the trachea. Okay, I don't know why I did this. I like the picture I found it, and so I put it together. Doesn't say anything new really. Nasal pharynx, oropharynx, which is the home of the palatine tonsil, pharyngeal tonsil up here in the nasal pharynx, and here's the laryngopharynx. The salivary glands are accessory organs. Okay? Doesn't mean that they're less important. We definitely need them to lubricate food, and yes, to digest some amount of carbohydrate anyway. The parotid glands, submandibular glands, and sublingual glands are the 3 types that are listed here. Here's your parotid gland, paired organs, of course. If you ever are dry mouth for some reason, maybe you've got to talk in front of somebody or a group, you can press in front of your ears, press pretty hard and rhythmically, and you'll push the saliva out and it'll wet your mouth. Okay? This is the parotid salivary gland. This is our first time to look and see that the gland looks bubbly because it's in lobes. All glands have lobes. The duct coming out delivers the saliva to your to the back molars on the upper portion of your mouth. That's happening on both sides. The duct is called the parotid duct. It's also known as Stenson's duct, but in the effort to get away from using people's names, this one seems to have won out. So rather than naming it Stenson's duct, parotid duct is more common. And it's the one that I will use on the exam. Doing the same job, you have two glands, one on each side here, lower towards the angle of the mandible. These are the submandibular salivary glands. The submandibular gland is drained by Wharton's duct, but now they've taken out Wharton and call it the submandibular duct, which probably is an easier way of remembering it. Submandibular gland drained by the submandibular duct. Parotid gland drained by the parotid duct. What's the purpose of a duct?
To get liquid from one place to another.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I was thinking of it a different way, but it's exactly right. A duct delivers its product, okay, in this case, a liquid, to a specific destination, okay, to a specific location. We have other types of glands, like, the pituitary gland in the brain produces lots of hormones, okay, but delivers them to the bloodstream and not by ducts. Glands that have ducts deliver to specific locations. Glands that don't have ducts give up their secretion into the blood that passes through them, and then it passes to the rest of the entire body. The difference between those two types of glands are the one that has the duct is an exocrine gland. And I don't think that is here. Don't worry, I won't ask it until we have passed it. We will be passing that. Doesn't hurt to talk about it for a second though. An exocrine gland is a gland with ducts. The other type of gland that does not have ducts is an endocrine gland. You've all heard of that term. An endocrine gland secreting hormones. Okay, so we've got parotid, submandibular, and now underneath the tongue, a series of small sublingual glands. And yes, they'll be drained by the sublingual ducts, which are so small here, they didn't even merit a label. Once past the mouth, the salivary glands, and the pharynx, the esophagus is going to be entered. Now, the esophagus is about 10 inches long. Okay. The upper portion of your esophagus, the upper about 2 inches, is under the control of skeletal muscle. But all of the rest of the esophagus and the rest of the GI tract of almost 26 feet is under the control of smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle is voluntary muscle that we have control over. Here's the esophagus here coming into the stomach. Close to the stomach, the esophagus would only have smooth muscle. 8 inches higher at the start of the esophagus, it would be under the control of skeletal muscle. That's kind of a protective mechanism. When you swallow something, generally you send it on its way to your stomach, and that's it. But sometimes you swallow something that is too hot. You can immediately gag it back up, okay? A reflex reaction done by skeletal muscle. If you swallow something and you thought it was going to be something else, for instance, you picked up a glass bottle thinking it was a Coke because you weren't looking, and you took a swig and found out it was insecticide. I've seen that happen. Your body will throw it back up really quick. It's quick, I mean, very quick, but it hopefully is quick enough. Okay. The material that comes down the esophagus, which is the tube or the part of the GI tract from the pharynx to the stomach, the food that comes down is called a bolus. In other words, when you take a swallow of something, you can feel it go down. Maybe you haven't felt it go down, but I can. Even if you take a gulp of liquid water, that's a bolus. Okay. And then it hits the stomach and enters the stomach through the cardiac sphincter. This is not the pointing to the cardiac sphincter. This is pointing to the cardia. The upper part of the, right where the esophagus comes in, this is the cardia. The lower part of the stomach is the pylorus. I'm not drawing definite lines here, okay, because they don't exist. This lower part is the pylorus. The cardia is here. And then we have a small area of stomach that is higher up in somebody who is standing than the entrance of the esophagus into the cardia. So if you're standing, it's a possibility that bubbles from carbonated drinks will collect in here. They can't collect for long. It's not a very large area. They can only collect for a while. And then what happens? Of course, you get a burp. Okay. The stomach, its primary function, again, is the storage of food. Here it's listed again for you. Chemically, the stomach digests proteins. So then mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion occurs in the stomach for all types of food. People think of it as a churning organ. Well, it is. And it's got these baffles all the way around the wall. These are called rugae. We have lots of organs that have rugae. Rugae allow for expansion. So yes, you can fill the stomach and it can enlarge, but the rugae also are there to help move the contents around as the stomach churns. There's a small amount of absorption through the wall of the stomach. And I mentioned that medication and alcohol, for instance, would be included in that. Okay. but most of the absorption is going to occur later on. And the stomach also has the ability to produce some hormones. We'll put that off until we talk about the endocrine system. Looking at this, here's the fundus, the rugae. The body of the stomach actually is the cardia and the pylorus. So this area here, the whole thing, is referred to as the body. This is the pylorus. I'm sorry, this is the cardia. And here's the pylorus. When the food exits the partially digested food anyway, exits the stomach, it'll go out through this small sphincter muscle. A sphincter muscle is circular. It's like your eye. If you close your eye tightly, you're contracting the sphincter muscle. If you're opening the eye wide, just the opposite. Okay. The pyloric sphincter closes and then opens to allow a small amount of material to exit at any time. The pyloric sphincter is the smallest passageway that food has to go through when passing through the GI tract. Okay. Larger things here, fine. They've got to be broken down. Okay. The first part of the small intestine, right here, is the duodenum. And since this is a model of the stomach, that's not a good model of a duodenum. We'll find that a little bit later on. Okay, quick review. Fundus, cardia, and pylorus, the three areas of the stomach. The last two, the cardia and the pylorus, also being called the body. Says that right there. The large folds internally of the stomach are called rugae. The lateral side of the stomach is over here, and this is called the greater curvature. Now, most of you are thinking your stomach is on your left side, okay? And that this must be then the lateral side, must be the left side. That's fine. The medial part of the stomach is the lesser curvature. Lesser curvature, lesser and greater do refer to size. For some people, the stomach is on the right side of the body. Okay, and I'm not saying that's you, or go home or go and ask your doctor. But there are a number of people, something like between 5% of the population, that have their internal organs, okay, by that I mean abdominal organs, reversed. They're completely turned around. Not different, functioning the same, work the same. But if I were a surgeon, I'd want to know before I went in there. Okay, you can see the rugae. This would be the pyloric sphincter. This would be the cardiac sphincter. The stomach's been removed here. Here's where the stomach is. And by removing the stomach from the picture, we expose more of the pancreas and the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine, after the pyloric sphincter, is the duodenum. That's labeled down here, but it comes from all the way here to that fold right there. Inside of the duodenum, you have small internal folds all the way around the outside. These are the plicae circularis. I will always call them plicae circularis on the exam, but there is a move in some books to change the name to circular folds, which may be fine for some people, but for people who've learned it as plicae circularis for 30 years, it's kind of difficult. The second part of the small intestine is the jejunum. Jejunum. I want to see where I'm going here. Okay. We're about to do the liver, and like I said, this was intended to span over 2 days. So we'll finish a bit more of it, but I'm going to give you a break at this point. Okay, so we'll take a break till 25 after. It's 3:13 right now. Okay. Okay, hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, I thought I'd mention something. On
You're muted.
non-mod, right?
Correct.
Yeah. When I came on, I wasn't muted, so I wonder if, oh, well, it's just a Canvas mystery. Next Tuesday, during the regular session, okay, I attend for an hour ahead of time in the discussion group, okay? And you do not have to attend that, of course, but I think you may want to. Or after we finish our regular day of lecture and lab on Tuesday, I'll have another hour after a short break, and we'll start up the discussion group again for those who didn't do it before or those who want to do it again. But during the class, for everyone, I'm going to have a little quiz. Okay, the word quiz or test that gets people shaking usually. Never anything to worry about except for the ones that we schedule. I'm going to do this because I don't want you to neglect learning the muscles also this weekend. I mean, the lecture material is most important, obviously. However, as I said, it's only about 12 pages of material, and you can do it with some concentration, and you're not going to spend all weekend on that. I know you have other classes and other things to do, or go to the bank. However, I want to encourage you to continue to study the muscles that we're going to talk about here in a moment. Well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to have a quiz. You'll back out of Confer Zoom. You'll take the quiz in Canvas. You'll come back to Confer Zoom when you're finished. We'll have a time limit. And I'm going to show screens of muscles. Okay, just like the muscles that you see from our website that I showed the other day. Okay, I'm going to show a mannequin with muscles. Okay, and I will only do human muscles, and I will have 25. Okay, it'll be multiple choice. There may be more than 5 choices. There may be, you either know it or you don't know it. So you pick your choice. And for every 5 of the 25 that you get correct, I'll award a bonus point. So there's an opportunity for 5 bonus points here. Okay. 4, let's say 25 would get you 5 bonus points. 24 will not do that. It will only get you 20 bonus points. Okay. You have to have a complete 5 to get 1 bonus point, another 5, another bonus point, and so on. Okay. And that'll only be for identification. You will not have to give origin, insertion, or action. Okay. And I will tell you, which muscles those are going to be when we do the muscle section in lab in just a moment. Okay. Question now.
Is this for helping us for the test on Thursday, or is this something different for the following?
I always add the bonus points uh, for myself, my mental self. I add them to the practicums. Okay, because that's the only place we really put bonus points. It doesn't matter where I put it. 5 points is 5 points in the class. You're trying to amass 720 points to get an A, right? Okay. And no matter where I put these 5 points, uh, uh, even if it's in a separate column, it will be added in to your score. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary. Okay. We'll go back to where we were, finish a little bit more of the digestive system, and then we will look at some muscles and talk about that bonus quiz a little bit more. Okay. The bonus quiz obviously is nothing to be afraid of. You weren't expecting it, and all it can do is help you. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing the last picture we had now?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Thank you. Uh, just reviewing really quick. Okay. The pancreas is in the back here. The stomach has been removed. This was the pyloric sphincter. This is the duodenum with the plicae circularis inside. Function of the plicae circularis is to move the food along. Uh, the intestines, as you know, as you can hear, they move around and they help move the contents along as well. Okay. Pay a little bit of attention right now to this hole and this hole and this duct. Okay. I'm not telling you what they do yet. Okay. Very soon I will. Okay. Here are the accessory organs. The first is the liver. The liver has 500 beneficial functions. God, if anything goes wrong with this poor guy, the liver, uh, 500 functions could go out the window. Uh, the most important, though, for us, the production of biosalt. Biosalt aids in the emulsification of fat. I told you about emulsification of fat, breaking it into smaller and smaller parts. And it's bile secreted by the liver that causes this to happen. The bile has to come into contact with the fats, and where's that going to be? It's got to be someplace in the small intestine. So we're going to have a duct or passageway from the liver to deliver the bile salts into the small intestine so that the fat can be emulsified. Okay. That will show up in just a second. Sorry, we have to wait just a little bit. The liver also detoxifies the blood. Okay. The most common example that people think of is alcohol. How many beers can I drink in an hour, and how many are left after half an hour or whatever, that detoxification of the blood will occur. Sometimes, though, the liver gets material from the small intestine. The small intestine is busy digesting and then absorbing nutrients. Sometimes these nutrients aren't really good nutrients. They may be harmful nutrients. For instance, you might eat a poison mushroom and it's going to go into your digestive system and it's going to be picked up through the small intestine. From there, it will go to the liver, and the liver will detoxify it if it's able. Some mushrooms are so deadly that our livers have never evolved to the point where they can handle them, and we're done in one dose. On the other hand, any other type of food or medication might be detoxified within hours or days. Red blood cells do not undergo mitosis. Red blood cells have no nucleus. Red blood cells, once they're formed by the bone marrow, they can live about 120 days, and then it's kaput. They're done. Okay. The destruction of the red or aging red blood cells takes place largely in the liver. It also takes place in the spleen, however, but the liver destroys these aging red blood cells. Excess sugar in the blood is stored as glycogen. Excess sugar isn't that hyperglycemia? Yes. Okay. Isn't that the sign of diabetes? Yes. Okay. But if everything's working right, you have excess blood, sugar in the blood. We don't want it there. We're going to store it temporarily. And it's stored in the liver. It's converted to a substance called glycogen, which is inert, okay, and it will stay there. At night, when you slow down, most people do, but if you slow down in your sleep, the sugar in your blood that is excess will be converted to glycogen and stored in the liver and released in the morning. Okay, can be released in the morning. Okay. And then the other function doesn't seem like a function at all, but it is. Maintenance of the status quo. That's the normal state of a healthy individual. Okay. The liver tries to see to it that you stay healthy. The gallbladder is an accessory organ associated with the liver. It stores any excess bile produced by the liver. The liver is constantly making bile or bile salts, and these head towards the small intestine, but we don't need them all the time. We need these bile salts when there is fat in the GI tract, and it needs to be emulsified. So there's the sphincter muscle, which we'll also name in a moment. Okay, put all this together. That will preclude the bile salt from going right into the small intestine. Instead, what is it going to do then? The liver's making it. The liver's not going to stop making it. And the bile backs up like a clogged drain, and backs up into the organ called the gallbladder. Okay. Well, you can only fill the gallbladder so much. And if you've been starving or you have not eaten any fat or anything like that, you might think, well, I'm going to burst with bile salt. The livers keeps making it. the gallbladder can't handle anymore in excess, well, there's a release. There's a relief valve. And the sphincter muscle that I mentioned will open just slightly and let bile dribble out slowly, slowly, so that we keep the same pressure. Okay. It's like some of you might know on a water heater or any other pressurized device, there's a safety valve and it opens when it needs to. Yeah. We'll see this. You just have to bear with me and believe me that it's all going to come together. Okay. And then the pancreas is an accessory organ. There's 4 accessory organs: liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Where's the 4th one? We passed it a long time ago when we did the salivary glands. Okay. The pancreas is both an endocrine gland and an exocrine gland. As an endocrine gland, we know that pancreas produces insulin. Okay, that's a hormone. It also produces glucagon, and that's a hormone. Okay. For now, those are not digestive functions, however, and we will come back to those when we do the endocrine glands. The exocrine function is that the pancreas produces pancreatic amylase. Remember, the salivary amylase wasn't very good at breaking down carbohydrates. The pancreatic amylase is very good at it, and it will do most of the digestion of the pancreatic of the of the starch. Okay, this paragraph I'm going to skip on you for a second. See if I got myself a diagram. Yes, I do. Okay. Here's your liver. Here's the pancreas. Here's the duodenum here. Here's a duct. This is called the hepatic duct. There's 2 of them that come out of the lobes of the liver, but only one really gets named. It's the common hepatic duct, or just hepatic duct. What's going to come out of this duct? Something that's going to be moved from one location to another. We've already said what a duct was. And it's going to be bile salts. The bile salts are coming this way. They're going down through this structure. This is the common bile duct. They come down farther through the pancreas to a small little area right here that can increase in size like a very sturdy little balloon. This is the ampulla of Vader. The ampulla of Vader has an exit, but that exit may be closed if there's no fat going through. Okay. If there's no fat going through, the bile salt comes down to the ampulla of Vader and then backs up and goes through the cystic duct to the gallbladder where it's stored. And the bile salt is stored in the gallbladder until it's needed for emulsification of fat. Sometimes we get something we don't want. We get gallstones. Gallstones are 100% cholesterol. It doesn't necessarily mean you have high cholesterol to have gallstones, but that's what they are. So back up the other way here. Gallbladder, it's filled with bile salt that it didn't make. The liver made it. And if it's going out now, it'll go through the cystic duct, join with the hepatic duct. These are two together and form the common bile duct. These three are important. Cystic duct, hepatic duct, common bile duct. They all head down here towards the ampulla levator. Also, the pancreas is making pancreatic amylase all the time. And it comes down here. It has another exit not shown in this diagram up here. And the amylase is dribbling out all the time. Most of the bile salt is going to be retained here. How does the amylase get out? I wish I had realized this drawing is a little deficient. There's another passageway over here. Let me show you. Here's the other passageway. And the amylase will get right out. The amylase that moves forward to the ampulla levator, it's a dead end. It's a dead end until the ampulla levator opens up. And that'll only be in the presence of lipids going through. Okay. What do you have to have eaten for lipids to go through?
Fatty food?
Sure. Can you name me one?
Bacon.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, there's protein in bacon too, and the stomach should take care of that portion of it, and the fat should move through, and then you've got the bile salts to act upon that. Okay. I'm just flipping back and forth between these guys. Here's our gallbladder here. Now, if something fatty does move through the intestine, this opens up. This opens up and the ampulla levator can empty. It can empty slowly, it can empty very fast too. The sphincter, there's a sphincter muscle right here. I don't see that it's written, so if it's not written, I won't ask it. I should know if it's written since I wrote it. Just for sake of conversation, that's the sphincter of Oddi. I don't know who makes up these names. They're crazy names. But if you don't get it in print from me, it won't be on any test. Okay. But the ampulla, an ampulla is like an ampule, okay, a container. And so this is the area that contains the bile salts ready to go, waiting to join in the action. What else could go through here? We had bacon, that was a good one.
Would avocado be one?
Absolutely. Okay, so you can eat an avocado and cleanse the bile salt out of your liver. One avocado ought to do it. How about everybody's favorite, mayonnaise? Mayonnaise is only oil and eggs. So mayonnaise is going to cause it to open up right away. So if somebody were to eat a tuna fish sandwich, which I understand usually is made with mayonnaise, okay, that goes through, the tuna gets taken up by the stomach, and the mayonnaise waits for emulsification into very, very small droplets capable of being absorbed by the intestinal wall. Okay. How many of you, well, how do I get an answer for that without going back to the other screen and watch for show of hands? uh, how many of you like mayonnaise? Well, try the show of hands thing. We'll learn how to use that. You know where it is?
No.
Okay, it's under reactions. Under reactions. Okay. Okay. You're back to seeing the liver again?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, I've always found that there's a percentage of people, maybe a third, that absolutely hate mayonnaise. I get sick thinking about it usually. And uh, you can put butter on the bread for me. No, no mayonnaise. When I was in France and got French fries and they served it with mayonnaise on it. Oh my God. Uh, I, my dislike for mayonnaise uh, has been lifelong, and I think you'll see why. Uh, my sister and I, you know, she was a year younger than me, about 4 or 5 or so. My sister and I were taken to a babysitter. Uh, Now, we usually did not have babysitters because we didn't have any money for babysitters. But my mother was trying to pass her naturalization uh, examination. She'd been over just from England, and so she wasn't a citizen yet. So she had to drop us off at this babysitter. And it was an old woman. Didn't like her. Had that smell, and she had other kids. She babysat for lots of kids. She had a front yard to be played in, and she'd yell at us and stuff. Anyhow, she called us all in for lunch. We sat down at a big, long picnic table indoors, and we were all given a plate with sandwich on it. And I looked at it, and my sister looked at it, and she felt the same way I did. It was tuna fish. It was a tuna fish sandwich just covered with mayonnaise. I couldn't eat that. I couldn't eat that. My sister couldn't eat that. Okay. And we told her uh, when she asked, "Why aren't you eating? We don't like this." And well, you're going to eat it. And no, we're not going to eat it. You're going to eat it. No, we're not going to eat it. You're going to eat it, or you won't get any dessert. You know. And I said, "That's okay. We don't want any dessert. Not if we have to eat that mayonnaise." Oh no. Well, that old lady was not going to take no for an answer. She got in front of me between the bench and the table and sat across my front legs. And she took the sandwich in her hand and pushed it into my mouth. Just smashed it into my mouth. I couldn't believe it. I look over at my sister through the corner of my eye. My sister is eating her mayonnaise sandwich as fast as she can. Uh, she, uh, so ever since then, I think you can understand why I have an aversion to mayonnaise.
I had the same experience, but with grilled onions.
Oh, I wouldn't eat onions for a long time. I wouldn't, I was 18 before I would eat any kind of pizza except cheese pizza. Would not have anything else on it. And grilled onions. Uh, you ever sit across from somebody eating onion rings
Yes.
and you pull the onion out? It looks like a tapeworm coming out of there. No. Okay, here we go. Now, uh, when I'm silent, I'm thinking, how far ahead do I need to go? And okay. Okay, we'll finish this page. This won't be that bad. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the lab material anyway. I'm going to give you that for the homework, and I know you're going to spend most of your time that you have for this class doing the lecture exam. Okay. Okay, so we actually finished the text on that page. Here's the small intestine right here, this part. Functions of the small intestine. Digestion of proteins, digestion or digesting of carbohydrates, emulsification of fat. So immediately the small intestine is taking care of all three classes of food. Okay. The small intestine is the main or principal site of digestion and absorption. Absorption is very important. People always talk about digestion, but digesting something that is not the same as absorbing it into the body. Okay. When the material exits the small intestine, it's no longer capable of being digested. It'll enter into the colon. There is no digestion in the colon or the large intestine, which is the same thing. Okay. Here's the crossover. The small intestine consisting of three parts: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. And then the ileum meets with here at the ileocecal valve and enters into the large intestine. Now, once anything gets into the large intestine, it will not be dissolved. It will not be digested any longer. The only thing that will be absorbed also is water. When you have a meal set in front of you and you're hungry, even though you don't notice it, your body puts out into the GI tract at least a quart of water. It enters into the GI tract, and that's as a medium for the digestion. But when you're finished, the body wants to retain that water, and it will reabsorb it through the colon. Here's the colon here. Has several parts. The very first part is right here, the cecum. The cecum is a part of the GI tract. The whole colon is a part of the GI tract. The appendix comes off of the colon at the cecum. Sometimes it's called the vermiform appendix, meaning the worm-like appendix. Okay. I won't change screens here and ask how many of you have had your appendix out, because half of you wouldn't tell me anyway. But I've had mine out. I had it out when I was 8 years old, and uh, terrible old time hospital. Okay. The rest of you who still have your appendix, I don't mean to scare you, but it's just something to be aware of. If you wake up, it's usually in the morning, wake up on your right side, lower right side, you got really burning pain. Get in there right away. Get into the emergency room. Uh, False alarm, who cares? If it's an appendectomy that you're going to need, uh, uh, these days the scar is so small. Okay, we had a floral designer when I was teaching horticulture. Was department chair of horticulture at Saddleback, and had the floral designer. I knew nothing about the material, of course, but he was vain. He was one of the most vain people you would ever expect to see. I mean, he was his hair, every hair was in place. His clothes were immaculate and everything. You know, it's just not me. And he came into class and into the office, and he said he hopes he makes it through class. And he said, "Why?" He said he had this pain in the side. He said, "Go to the emergency room. I'll take you. I'll take you over there." He said, "Okay, I'll just go myself." He didn't go. He went to his classroom and he taught his class for 3 hours. And then he tried to drive himself to the emergency room that night. They got him in there. They rushed him to the operating room, but it was too late. Appendix had burst. Once that happens, the whole abdominal pelvic cavity has to be cleaned out. I'm not talking about the internal GI tract. I'm talking about all the organs, everything, because of the contamination that results. And in order to do that, they couldn't use one of those laparoscopic little cuts on him. They had to go from diagonally from the hip to the sternum to open him up. So he wasn't vain after that. Just like I said, one thing to be aware of. One of you probably, well, whatever. Okay. Notice on the colon, the first part goes up your right side. This is the ascending colon. It turns at the hepatic flexure, hepatic meaning the liver. The transverse colon goes across, right under your ribs. Then at the spleen, we have the splenic flexure, and the descending colon comes down. All the time, water is being reabsorbed and the waste is being compacted. And then when it enters into the colon, enters into the pelvic brim, pelvic area, this is the sigmoid colon. I'm going to mention on Tuesday this line here. You're not going to forget it. And these bulges that we see here. Okay. They're not labeled in this diagram, and it's not the time for them. Okay, I guess this is the time for them on my next page. Okay, again, stomach, duodenum taken off, pancreas here. This happens to be the spleen. This is the liver. Here's the cecum. Here's the ileocecal valve. Here's the appendix, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon. The bumps are called Hostra. A singular is a hostrum. They're there to help move the food along. The food will get captured in these little pouches and pushed along like a little conveyor belt as they move along. This line in the center is a line of smooth muscle. Here's the same thing here, just barely showing. Here you see it over here. It's not just one line of smooth muscle. If it were, all it could do is contract and pull one side towards the other. This is one of three lines. There are three sides. If you picture this as circular, the colon is circular, then this may be at 10 o'clock, then at 2 o'clock, and then down at 6 o'clock. There'd be another line. These little lines are all smooth muscle. And all the muscle can do is contract. There's nothing else muscle can do at all. So what if these three muscles, long muscles, all contract at the same time? They just pull, release, pull, release. Nothing's going anywhere, not really. You're not going to get the formation of these hostra. Instead, what happens is the three lengths of smooth muscle called tinea coli contract in sequence. First this one, then the next one, then the next one, then the other one again, and so on. And it causes a puckering effect, like you can see here, to form the hostra. If you've ever tried to raise Venetian blinds, maybe to clean a window, you know that the Venetian blind or the levolor has two cords. One of them turns the angle of the levolor, the other one raises the levolor. And if you pull both cords, half the time, damn it, it doesn't go up right. One side goes up high, the other side stays low. It's uneven. Then you got to get over to the other side, pull it back down again, and level everything out, and try again and again until you get it. You'll get it when you pull the chords both exactly at the same time. But now imagine instead of having two chords, you have a triangular structure on the ground with three chords coming out of it, going over a hitch at the top, and you're pulling on it. You got to get all three of the chords perfect. Well, nature doesn't work that way either. And what happens is these contract at different times. And by doing so, it puckers up the levolor, or in this case, the hostra. Tinea coli, smooth muscle of the small intestine, large intestine. Hostrum, the results of the Tinea coli, the pouches. Okay, I'm going back to the module for a second. Okay. Do you see that I'm pointing to human muscles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I can put this into an email to you and to anybody else that's not here, although they can also listen to the recording if they're not here. Maybe that's better technique. Okay, this weekend, go to, I never put the link in for you, so I will. And there'll be human muscles, and there may be another link right below it that says abbreviated. Abbreviated. That'll be fine. That's the one that has the little bit less information, but the most important information is right there. I'm going to go to this. This is the big page, okay? And the one that's smaller, I can take us there. And you will be able to take yourself there later this evening if you wish, because I'll have another link. Okay, so what happened here? This is still the same musculature. Here's the muscles, origin, insertion, and action. Okay, I don't need you to do the origin, insertion, and action yet. Yet, yeah. Okay, since this is going to be multiple choice bonus quiz, I don't have any reservation about what I'm going to do here. Okay, I'll show you a muscle. You do not have to worry about origin, insertion, and action this weekend. That's a lot not to worry about this weekend. I want you to be able to recognize. Okay, so this is number one. Okay, I'll have a nice arrow or a star on it. And the pull down menu or multiple choice, you name it. That's it. Okay. Well, this would be the trapezius. This would be the rhomboides. This would be the supraspinatus. This would be the infraspinatus. Once you have looked at them, okay. For the latissimus dorsi, if I wanted to do that one, it's over here. I'd put a decent star right on it. I like stars. Okay, so which ones am I going to do? Okay. Some of these are facial muscles. Yeah, I don't like those. Okay, muscles for you to study this weekend will be 1 through 22. The others are all going to be important. The pictures are fine. I just don't like the way that they're labeled for study. Instead of 25 questions, I'm going to ask 20 of these, okay? And I will give you a point for every 4 that you get right. So you still can get 5 points correct, okay? So what do you need to do this weekend for this? Well, first off, you can tell yourself, I'm not going to do anything for it because I'm going to spend all my time on the lecture test, okay? Then you find so you got free time, might as well get a couple of points here or all of them. So Charlie's going to pick out in no particular order, of course, okay? Only muscles from 1 through 22. Since I'm going to ask 20, there's 2 that I won't be asking. I don't know which they're going to be. Okay. The muscles of the arm are in here. Those are tough. Those are a bit tougher. Use your book to help you. Sometimes when you see a picture, you don't know the orientation. I'm not going to be there to help you on this bonus quiz, okay? So, but other times you certainly do. Okay. These are all numbered for you. So 1 through 22. And it'll be during the first part of the regular conference Zoom. Okay. And that'll be approximately 2 o'clock, probably a few minutes later. I'll also have a conference Zoom at 1 o'clock for those who want it in the discussion section. And another once we finish, I'll do a quick Zoom in the discussion section for those who want it. The purpose of those sessions is to further discuss the lecture exam. Okay. Questions? Makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody confused?
So do we not have lecture on Tuesday? You'll just be doing review for the people that want review?
From 1 o'clock to approximately 2 o'clock. That's for anybody who
Oh,
wants to opt in. Okay.
okay.
So, and if you can't do that time slot, okay, but still wish to do it, then I will do it after we finish our session right now, because we are scheduled, if we wish, to go to 7 o'clock. So I know you signed up for that time, so everybody's going to get an opportunity who is in the discussion section. I understand that there's going to be 2 or 3 people who will not be able to get in, and that was their choice, and it wasn't well, the information is all available in text, asynchronous. Okay, everything is available both ways, so nobody's being denied anything. Okay, and if there's anybody who needs special help, maybe because of that, they can contact me, and I can set up a one-on-one discussion. Okay, we just want to get the best grades we can from everybody, so that when you move on to the next class, you look good, you make me look good, and your patients eventually, those of you who are going to have patients, uh, uh, are happy with you. Okay. Let me see. Heidi,
Yeah, I'm here.
yeah, I mentioned something about the question you asked at the start. I don't think you were here. If you want to see it, just start the video when it's posted tonight. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything I need or want to say right now. I think you've got a ton of stuff to do because you do have a lecture test. You've got ongoing lab you got lab bonus thing to look forward to. And if you are going to come to the discussion section when I post it, please, if you can, try to bring a question or two. Okay, it's for the good of all. Otherwise, it'd just be me saying the same stuff again. Okay, not required, but hopefully it'll work out well. Okay, then if you don't have any questions, go ahead and exit when you feel like it. If you do have a question, hang around and I'll hit you at the end here.
I had a quick question, Charlie.
Yes,
I was wondering if vocal cords and vocal folds were the same thing.
yes,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
okay.
Will there be any labeling on the exam, or is it going to be all questions, no pictures? Because we already had a lab exam.
No, as I mentioned earlier, there will be labeling,
Okay.
okay? But only from the material that's posted in the modules and listed as lecture material.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're very welcome.
I had another quick question. What was the fourth accessory organ? I have written down liver, gallbladder, and pancreas.
Salivary glands.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much, Charlie.
I will.
Charlie, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
Is the quiz timed on Tuesday, the extra credit quiz?
Say that again.
Will the extra credit quiz be timed on Tuesday?
Oh yes. Absolutely. I'll put that into the email, but
Okay.
there's no quiz in the world that is untimed.
Okay, that's fine.
I
And sorry, really fast. Just when
no.
we're studying for the lecture exam, do you
Yes.
think that if we study only from your lecture notes that are posted, that you go through like every class, do you think we'll be set, or do you think we also need like additional book help, if that makes sense?
I think you should reread your outlines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, then that's
Not
great.
the book. Not the book. If you wrote long outlines, then you haven't helped yourself much. But
Mhm.
about 5% of the questions will come from places other than the online text.
Okay.
They will come from instead the book. Okay, now you don't need to reread the book, as I said. Reread your lecture, your notes,
Mm-hmm.
outlines, and then you'll be fine.
Okay, then great.
Okay, you can easily get an A if you just know the online text.
Okay, then I hope so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor or Charlie. Thank you.
Bye bye. Nosteron, are you there?